Most workout details can be defined as easy, hard, or long. Today I want to talk about the long run, and the concepts I talk about today can be applied to the long bike and to some aspect a long swim. So first, what is a long run? Simply, it's the longest run that you do during the week. And a long run for you may be a short run for me, depending on what you're training for. I definitely think a long run, a long bike, sometimes a long swim, depending on what you're training for, is a necessary component of anyone's training plan. The purpose, number one, it builds mental confidence, knowing that you can go the distance. It helps you become more efficient and fat adapted at burning body fat for fuel, so you can go the distance. Most people like to think of the long run with marathon training, and it can help with endurance and stamina. Stamina meaning you're able to focus on a stronger pace for a longer period of time. It helps you build resilience, mental toughness. I already mentioned economy and efficiency, and also increasing your mitochondria and capillary density, which is something outside the scope of what I wanted to talk about today. So let's talk about different workout types of the long run, and that'll help lead to frequency. So the most common long run is just an aerobic endurance run where you're keeping your rate of perceived effort on a scale of 1 to 10 at maybe a 4 to a 5. For the duration of the run, you're developing your aerobic capacity. Second type of run, you can do a progressive run where you're starting out easy and you're slowly progressing your pace over the duration of the run. So let's say you're doing a 9-mile run. The first 3 miles are easy, the second 3 miles are medium, the third 3 miles are hard, and you could use that rate of perceived effort scale. Or if you train by heart rate, pace, or power, you're going to be in that zone 2, which is the easy, zone 3 is the medium, zone 4 and above is usually the hard, for simplicity. You can input some hill training, especially if the race that you're training for has hills. I highly encourage you to do your long runs on hilly terrain because there's so many benefits to hills, including technique, endurance, strength, and speed. You can add some fartlek training, which is just some speed play. So during your long run, to kind of break up the boredom, you can still keep it a zone 2 aerobic RPE 4 to 5 effort, but you can intersperse some speed efforts where you're running to the next house fast, or you're running to a mailbox or a tree or some object in the future. You're running at a higher pace, but you're keeping it relatively short, maybe 1 to 2 minutes long, so you're not creeping into doing any type of anaerobic activity during the aerobic effort long run. You can also, what I like to do, especially if someone's experience and ability doesn't really allow them to push past a certain distance because maybe they're prone to illness, injury, or they just don't have the time, is kind of incorporating that long run effect after a bike ride or other endurance event where you're running immediately afterwards. So it's like a brick workout, transition workout, but it kind of gives you that long run effect where you're running on tired legs and you're keeping that aerobic intensity. There's also long runs that I like to incorporate at different phases of the training plan where you're doing an aerobic effort and a tempo finish. So you're kind of incorporating some race pace efforts depending on what race distance you're training for within the long run. And I think for a marathon runner, like I said, a lot of people think of the long run, they think of the marathon. You're doing some long runs at your marathon pace, effort, intensity, heart rate, power, whatever you use to measure intensity. How frequently do you run long? I say every week, but it just depends on your experience, your ability, and what you're training for. It's very event specific how often you incorporate it. If you're a multi-sport athlete, sometimes in a training plan when I'm coaching someone, I like to give them a long run every other week. So one week they're doing a brick workout, a bike run, followed by a moderate distance run, and the next week they're doing a long bike followed by a longer run the next day. And it really doesn't matter because the long run definition is just your longest run of the week, so it makes sense that every week you're doing a long run. But sometimes people have certain expectations of what the duration of a long run is, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about it. Again, long runs are included in any type of running program. Most people are training for a 5K up to an ultra distance, which is beyond a marathon distance race. And the ranges of a long run as far as distance goes is when someone's training for a 5K, I like to build them up to at least 5 or 6 miles as their longest run. If they're a beginner, if they're an experienced athlete, I like to build them up so they're comfortably running maybe 8 up to 10 miles for their longest run of the week. If they're training for a 10K, I like to build them up for at least to an 8 to 10 miles as their longest run, maybe a little bit more if they have more experience. If they're training for a half marathon, I like to get them, if they're a beginner, I'll get them anywhere between 10 and 12 miles. If they haven't yet run a half marathon before, usually a first-timer beginner, their half marathon is going to be their longest run within the training plan, their event half marathon. So getting them between that 10 and 12 mile distance. And then for a full marathon, I like to go up to at least 18 or longer, depending on the experience of an athlete. In our half marathon and marathon training plans made easy, we build the athlete up to, I believe, 10 miles for that half marathon beginner and up to 18 miles for that marathon beginning training plan. But it's all relative to how fast you are, what your goals are, whether you're doing an aerobic easy long run or whether you're doing a marathon pace tempo long run. There's so many variables included in how you approach the longest run of the week. I'd like to hear what your favorite long run is, what it consists of, and why you like to do it. Join the chatter in the T2 Endurance Facebook group, comment below, reach out to me on social media, and I hope you make it a great day.